what happens when there is no belonging, no curiosity, and no capacity? What are the undesirable results that pop up? What do you think? What are some of them? Somebody who I haven't already done this speech for. What do you think? What are the behaviors that, what's that?
Bad things.
Bad things arising. Poor communication, sure. Low performance, well, that would be a result of the behavior, most likely. Yeah.
It's just the same, everybody's agreeing.
Okay, okay. So I'm going to take it a little bit of a different direction, right? So these are the connection killers. I actually have a whole chapter in my book about this. And these are the behaviors that flatten trust and shut people down. I love these. And I've probably committed most of them, maybe in the past 24 hours. So I want you to just think, I'll go through them one by one, but think about people that you know who represent these kinds of behaviors, and where have you maybe demonstrated these behaviors, and they're human behaviors. But we want to start looking at what are the conditions that make people behave in this way. Sometimes, right? Sometimes people are just idiots. So the bulldozer. One of my first coaching clients was this woman named Jen. I write about her in our book, and she was a senior account executive at an agency in the Midwest, PR agency in the Midwest, and she got really, really high marks for getting stuff done. Like she was the gal to give assignments to because she got it done. She got incredibly poor marks for engaging her team and for being somebody that people actually wanted to work with or be around. So they hired me to help her figure out how she can both drive results but also be human, right? So bulldozers will get the job done, but they leave a lot of people in the wake. So anybody have any bulldozers in their life? Could be a spouse. I don't know. It could be a mother, father. I don't know. Coworker. All right. People are being brave. Nobody's going to answer. All right. All right, the jokester. This is one of my favorites. So I knew a guy. Oh my God. Well, so he ran an agency, and his whole thing was humor. Like that was just his thing. But what you would hear from his staff was that in team meetings, staff meetings, he would just like crack all of these jokes at other people's expense, and he was funny as heck. But between the sort of poking fun at people, talking about people, joking about people who weren't in the room, sarcasm, which I think is hilarious, but it's also like the darkest form of humor, that leaves people out. And so those behaviors often do the opposite of what that person intends to do. So I know for me, I think that I keep on looking at you because you're just so fantastic. I'm gonna look at some other fantastic. You're fantastic too. So humor can be a really great connector, and I think sometimes people who tell a lot of jokes who are really funny, like they're the class clown. They want attention, but they also want to create connection. But sometimes the wrong kind of humor, the off-color jokes, the tone-deaf reading of the room can create disconnection. And it also can really undermine trust. And a lot of times that person who engages in sarcasm, it's because they do not feel safe to share some of their criticism of an organization, so it comes out in humor. So there isn't the kind of safety, and they're also desperately trying to belong. So it relates to belonging. The judge. This is funny. I just spent 10 days with my family in New York, and we had this whole conversation about, are you being judgy or are you being discerning? And we decided that the judgment is when you are actually, you know better and you are right, and the other person is wrong. And then discernment is a little bit more of just kind of an observation. It's a little more objective. But being the judge in the workplace, being that person that is quick to label someone as not strategic or lazy or stubborn, when we put people in a box that way without being curious about why they are acting the way that they're acting, we do a disservice to that individual and potentially to the work and the organization. The interrupter. Who knows interrupters? Intruders? I love it. You all live in a world that I want to be in where no one interrupts you. That is unbelievable. So Now, I have a thing about interrupting. So sometimes I think people interrupt because they are so desperate to connect with you, they want you to know that you get what it is that they're saying. It's like, oh, I do that too, right? And they're trying to create this connection. But again, that behavior can have the opposite effect, and it puts a wedge into connection. So sometimes taking that extra pause, so hard, right? If you're a more extroverted person, you're excited, you want to share your knowledge and experience, taking that pause creates more safety for people to share their views, and you get more creativity and more collaboration. And finally, the whisper network, also known as gossip. All right, who knows gossips? Oh yeah, okay, that one we got some interaction, right? So as I define gossip, it's talking about somebody else to someone who can't do anything about it. And gossip, there's probably nothing that can undermine an environment of safety in an organization than gossip. Bad news spreads fast, right? People rarely gossiping about how happy they are for their promotion, right? But gossip is usually a sign that there is a condition that isn't effective. It's usually that people don't feel safe, as we were talking before, to voice a concern or a criticism because they fear retaliation or rejection. So, okay, so don't do these things, basically. That's my advice to you. So the sixth one was the know-it-all. But you all know that already, so I'm not going to say it. All right, so these behaviors look very personal, but they're situational. And if we change the conditions, for the most part, these behaviors will change. And if we don't change the conditions, or we only focus on the behavior of these individuals, what happens is the behaviors simply show up in another form. It's like human whack-a-mole. So this is why I'm advocating looking at, before we immediately put somebody on a performance review plan, let's look at how the conditions are supporting them and versus how the conditions are affecting them. So what might it look like if your organizations were even 10% more connected? And so I talked about this situation earlier on. I'm going to share with the story now. The year was 1999, I think that's right. And I was the publicity director for a children's publishing company in New York, head of publicity. And I served on a cross-functional team, the heads of operations, finance, sales, and we had the Monday morning from hell, the staff meeting, which nobody looked forward to. It was an hour time waster, but that was where we basically got updates. It was also the place where people showed off, covered their butts, threw other people under the bus, just basically a day in the life of corporate America. And so there was no reason to believe that this Monday meeting would be any different. People were chugging their coffee, but we can substitute now. If it was here, they were chugging their swig. They were popping donuts like the doctor prescribed them, and it was just going to be another time suck. And so our boss, who's the head of the company, the publisher, comes in, and she's unusually animated, which was scary if you knew her. And she says to me, she says to the group, she says, "Okay, I just bought a book at auction, and you, team, have to make it a bestseller, a crossover bestseller, the biggest thing in publishing. That's your charge." And so everybody's kind of excited. I actually felt the room was kind of buzzing because this was different. This was exciting. She just spent like a huge amount of money for this book. This was gonna be big. And she looks at me, and now this is where the excitement for everybody else was like my dread. And she lasers in at me, and she says, "And Alan, this is mainly gonna be on you. The publicity team has got to make this book the biggest thing since sliced bread." And I'm like, oh.